Hello, everyone. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. Welcome to The Takeout. You know I love a brief history lesson, so here we go. Stay with me. 2018, when Letitia James was campaigning for New York Attorney General, she said this about President Trump, and I quote, "I will never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president." At her victory speech, Letitia James said this.
"I will be shining a bright light into every dark corner of his real estate dealings. And every dealing, demanding truthfulness at every turn."
True to her word, James launched an investigation in 2019 into the Trump Organization over a variety of accounting misdeeds. Trump sued, alleging the investigation amounted to political harassment. The court disagreed. Trump was ordered to turn over documents. He refused and was held in contempt and fined $10,000 a day until he did. Then James tried to depose Trump. He lost an effort in court to block that. At the deposition, Trump refused to answer a single question. As this investigation continued, James sent out fundraising emails about it. The case went to trial, and last year, Trump was found to have committed fraud for many years. He was ordered to pay $354 million. In August, a New York appeals court upheld the finding that Trump committed fraud, but voided the $354 million in damages as excessive. This history followed James into a federal courtroom in Virginia, where she pled not guilty this morning to federal fraud charges related to a home mortgage. Trump practically ordered the Justice Department to bring the indictment against James. In many circles, this case is viewed as payback for James's case against the president. Here is James outside the courthouse.
This is not about me. This is about all of us. And about a justice system which has been weaponized. A justice system which has been used as a tool of revenge.
We start tonight with our justice correspondent, Scott MacFarlane. Scott, I'm always grateful to have you here. Tell us what happened today and what's next.
A pretty brief hearing. An arraignment is just that. The defendant gets rights read. Here's the schedule ahead and enters a not guilty plea. And Letitia James entered the not guilty plea to the 2 federal charges. The next hearing ahead is particularly interesting. November 13th, she's going to be in court, not in Norfolk, but in Alexandria, Virginia, where she will be making an argument in conjunction with or alongside James Comey. They're making the same argument to the same judge that they don't believe the prosecutor in their cases, Lindsay Halligan, the one-time White House aide recently appointed to be the top prosecutor in Virginia, is lawfully in her position, and they want their cases dismissed for that reason.
And it appears she's eager to fight this case and its particulars in court.
She has been denying any wrongdoing consistently and unequivocally ever since the allegations first surfaced and since the charging documents first surfaced. And outside the court, as part of what you just heard, she was promising and predicting vindication is coming. But there's going to be another motion she files to get the case dismissed to be alleged vindictive prosecution, that this is political, that this is selected for her, just like James Comey has argued the same. Those motions could be joined, may stay separate, but that's coming too.
And that question and that answer from the court will tell us a lot about the direction of currently pending Justice Department investigation into perceived enemies of President Trump. Scott MacFarlane, thank you very much. Earlier, I spoke with Washington State Attorney General Nick Brown about this and much else. Mr. Attorney General, great to have you here on set. So happy to see you in person.
Thank you.
Letitia James pled not guilty today. How do you view the Justice Department's indictment against her and what's going on?
I think it's a real tragedy, frankly, not only for what she and her family are now facing, but because of the politicalization of the Department of Justice, this explicit targeting of an individual rather than a crime. It's a really sad moment for the history of the Department of Justice, which had a robust and proud legacy, and now it's really been turned on its head.
You know what Trump supporters say. Letitia James campaigned for the Attorney General of New York, saying she would go after President Trump, considered him an illegitimate president, wouldn't be intimidated by him, brought a civil case. That civil case went through the process, led to fines against the Trump Organization.
Yep.
Trump supporters would say that's an example of using the legal system in a politically weaponized way against him.
Well, I think there's an obvious difference between the two circumstances. What Tish talked about during the campaign was holding the president responsible for a myriad of various crimes and malfeasance that he had a long legacy of doing in New York. What the president has done with A.G. James, with Director Comey, with John Bolton, is targeted the people and essentially instructed his Department of Justice to find something to hold them accountable for. And so he was going after people, not offenses, whereas Tish, I think, appropriately recognized that wrong had been done by the president in his prior capacity in New York and elsewhere. And that was proven out in court. The fact that he went and was held liable in New York State for some of the offenses there really sort of proved the seriousness of how she was pursuing those cases. But this is very different. I mean, the president is talking openly about targeting political opponents, going after people that he doesn't like. And really, the Department of Justice is now just abiding by whatever the president wants, which is not the way the Department of Justice is supposed to operate.
Let me ask you about the National Guard. The Ninth Circuit 2-1 ruling said the president had a colorable belief that there is a threat to federal facilities and therefore was within his rights to federalize the National Guard, send them into Portland. You'd like the full Ninth Circuit to evaluate that. Were you in any way unnerved, maybe even scared by that 2-1 Ninth Circuit court ruling and what it might portend?
Well, you know, it's really remarkable to see the way that that court analyzed the facts on the ground. You know, stepping back, we're obviously very close to Oregon. I've been to Portland many times. The notion that Portland was a war-torn city or a hellhole.
World War II.
Right. It was laughable. I mean, at the same time, the president was saying that the Portland Marathon, which I've run a couple times, was happening in Portland. Like, I've been to war. I served in Iraq in a war-torn place. Portland is very, very far from that. And so what the president was saying was
You typically don't run marathons in war.
No, you don't. And so the president was lying. I mean, and we should just say that explicitly. The Trump-appointed district court judge was analyzing the facts on the ground and found no basis whatsoever, talked about the DOJ being detached from reality in analyzing that. What the appellate court did was something much broader, and I think very concerning, not only for Oregon, but for any other state that might be in this position of having U.S. soldiers turned against its people. The appellate court went back, looked at earlier disruptions and protests that were, more serious from months prior, and said those are also facts, and they're highly deferential to the president. And if we're going to be deferential and not actually do a deeper analysis, there would be really no limitation on the president sending the National Guard into any city. And that's a very scary place, not only for Portland, but for America. We're not supposed to have military troops keeping us safe, patrolling our cities. We're supposed to use those for foreign duties. Using the National Guard, taking them away from their day jobs and their families to patrol the streets when the facts on the ground don't really mandate that is very dangerous for us all, and we have to take it seriously.
The last time you and I spoke, you said that the president was a threat to our constitutional order. That was several months ago. Are you any less certain of that now than you were then?
No, I think what we were saying months ago has been proven to be true. This president right now acts with complete disregard for the Constitution of the United States. I don't think he frankly cares about it. I don't frankly think he cares about anybody that doesn't agree with everything that he says. And we've seen time and time again the president act in a way that undermines not only our legal authority and our Constitution, but sort of the moral background that has kept this country bonded together for so long. And as someone who grew up professionally in the Department of Justice, I've always had a lot of admiration and affinity for DOJ's work. And so I've been really focused on what they've been doing. But really from day one, AG Bondi talked about the DOJ personnel being the president's lawyers, talked about rooting out people that don't agree with the president or didn't like the president. And it's really now bearing that fruit of going after their political opponents. And so the fact that the president of the United States leads with disregard for our founding principles saddens me as someone who serves their country in uniform and spent most of my time in public service as a lawyer. It is really, really, I think, borne out all of the sort of predictions that we talked about months ago.
Washington Attorney General Nick Brown, I appreciate you coming in.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.